Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Safari Mack Explores Australia. I'm Safari Mack, your guide and host, helping you make connections to the wild. Now, normally, since we are in the land down under, I would have started this episode with G'day mates. Unfortunately, it's not so good, as I'm afraid we're in the middle of a natural crime scene. We humans are guilty of bringing a certain group of animals to Australia that aren't native, or what we will call Australia's invasive species. Now, here, they may seem, it seems like they can't be invasive, but believe you and me, they are. And they have caused major problems all across the Australian landscape. And so we're going to dive in today and uncover exactly some of the environmental damages that these creatures have caused. Now, before we begin though, if you're new to my channel, hit that like and subscribe button, check out my Facebook page for content on conservation, and if you have a question or if there's an animal that you want me to do in the future, you just have to send me an email, which you will always find the link to down in my description below. But if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's begin our investigation. First question that probably comes to your mind is, what exactly makes a species invasive? Well, there's a set of principles that can cause major problems for an environment that's not really adapted for them. One of the first principles is they're highly adaptable, meaning they're not confined to just one habitat. They can live in a menagerie of habitats. Two, they will often have no natural predators that can keep them in check. Number three, they will outcompete the other wildlife, whether it's flora or fauna, for food, water, and space. And finally, number four, if given the right conditions and no predators to keep them in check, they can multiply quickly, and I mean super quickly, to where it could be possible that in one short generation, what would probably be a few hundred could turn into well over 1,000 in somewhat of a short period of time, or give it the right conditions. So now, enough said, we're going to start off by looking into the lives of some of these invasive species. Now, I'm not going to go over every single species, but we're just going to get kind of the gist. Exactly, we're going to see what the animal is, how they got here how they got there, and what are the problems they're causing. Is that good? Okay. For starters, the fox. We met the red fox back in our tour of North America, Vulpes vulpes, near the end of 2023. Well, yep, the red fox is deemed as one of the worst species to be an invasive in the land of Australia. How so? And for one, why would they bring this animal here? Well, think of it like this. Back in the time when European explorers were beginning to uncover the mysteries of Australia, they were finding themselves in an alien world. In fact, to me, I would say it's completely alien as well. But for the Europeans, they wanted to take it a step further by kind of implementing their own cultures. And one of these cultures in Europe, especially in Britain, was the famous hunt, where people on horseback, along with their dogs, would chase after the fox in a thrilling pursuit of its quarry. However, what seemed to be harmless at first soon has now turned into a nightmare for many native species of Australia, like this bilby and even this kind of hopping mouse. Unfortunately, because of foxes and their adaptability, and because of their being able to eat whatever they can find, they have actually caused a number of extinctions for some of Australia's native wildlife. And it's not just that. It's not just the ground that's at stake. It turns out, thanks to they actually even know how to climb trees. Or by learning to climb certain trees, even joeys of koalas and other arboreal animals, such as Australia's birds, even they are no longer safe. But it continues to get worse. It's not just the foxes that are to blame, but also feral cats and feral dogs even that are decimating Australia's native small mammal population, even reptiles, amphibians, and birds. As you can see, this feral cat here has got a sugar glider in its mouth. So, not exactly a good match. Next, horses, camels, and water buffalo. Wait a minute, huh? I know you're probably thinking that's a little awkward, isn't it? Well, unfortunately, it's not just predators, but prey can also be problematic. So, you're probably wondering, how did the camel even get to us? Why would they bring camels to Australia? For one, when European explorers were beginning to uncover and settle the interior of Australia, they needed animals that were well adapted to traveling through desert and extreme conditions. Enter the camel and even the horse. Because of their ability to go for long periods without water, these animals were the perfect creatures to use to get across the arid and deadly outback. However, as time passed and the humans began to make their settlements and adapt quickly to the Australian environment, these animals were no longer needed. So they kind of did somewhat of an irresponsible thing and released them out into the wild. Now, here's what's the problem with camels and horses. They mean well, but they can go for a period without food and without water. And when they do start to eat and drink again, or whenever opportunity presents itself, they do not hold back. They go, in a way, bananas. Here's an example. A camel can go for a long time without water, right? When it's time to drink again, if we were to try to recreate ourselves drinking as fast as a camel would drink, we would actually kill ourselves from the immense pressure of all that water suddenly rushing into our bodies. But these guys will drink and drink and drink. It's something, in a way, think of yourself being able to drink over 300 cans of soda in 1 minute. Can you imagine yourself doing that? I certainly can't. But the camels are doing that. And as a result, at special water holes where droughts can last for a long period of time, as a result, the camels are kind of, in a way, sipping away all the water to where it's now kind of hard for the native wildlife to even find any drop. And the horses are no better off. They need to eat a lot of food to survive. But as they're eating the grass, they're also eating the native plants and leaving less food for the other Australian wildlife. And so these animals, while they mean well, they can cause problems overall. Now, we're going to stop for today, and we're going to pick up with next week on other invasive species in Australia. But until then, this is Safari Mack. I'll see you all out there.